everybody, my name is Kyle3639. Welcome back to another video. Today in this one I'm going to be bringing you my top 5 meta decks in the post-March 2021 ban list. Now this information is my own opinion on what I think the best decks are, and we'll also be going off the LCS 11, that the information we got this weekend based on how many people were playing the decks. And then I'm also going to be including some meta cards that, not a part of a deck, but, could be a meta relevant card. And then some engines as well. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So this was the LCS 11 breakdown. So there's actually a lot of decks in this format. Again, this was just this past weekend. People could have been testing and all that stuff, but there was a lot of decks in this weekend's tournament. But as you can see, of course, the most represented deck in the entire tournament was Dragon Link, with 37 people using it out of the 223, which gives you about 16% of players using Dragon Link in this format. And what's another good thing about it is that the second place deck is actually not like a deck whatsoever. Second most representative thing was just 34 other decks. 34 other decks that didn't, contribute to the pie chart in any way. Each deck has I think a little bit more than 2% representation, but yeah, that's actually pretty good. There was a lot of decks in this tournament. Number 3, we got the Dinos at I forget what the percentage was, and then Zodiac, its variants being 18 Eldritch and 8 Pure, and then Eldritch with 9 Dragoons, 7 Pure, and 6 others. And then it goes along with Invoked, Shadal, Bird Up, surprisingly not being seen that much in the pie chart. I thought it'd be way more play this weekend. Virtual World, Dragon Buster, yeah, you heard that right. Subterror, Dragoon, Prank Kid, Drytron just in there, and then Phantom Knight's also barely in there. But yeah, now let's get into the meta card. Starting off with the fucking course, it's Zeus. This has been one of the most used cards in Phantom Knight in Phantom Rage that came out of that set. Holy shit, this is a fucking powerful card. So basically, if your deck can make an XYZ monster, you might as well play Zeus, because God, Zeus can just be in any XYZ format. So the reason why Zodiacs are so good right now is because of this card and this card alone. If you don't know what it does, it's basically a non-once per turn board wipe. So once per turn, quick effect, detach 2 materials, send all other cards from the field to the graveyard, and you can activate that multiple times a turn. So if someone tries to negate it, you can just straight up activate it once again. Zodiacs can get 6 materials on this. This is actually pretty stupid. Yeah, if you haven't got yourself a copy of Zeus, go ahead, get the copy. Even if it's like $60, $70, God, it's worth having this card. And many decks try to fit this in their deck just because of how good the card is. Yeah, without a doubt, one of the best meta cards in the format. Next thing up is Dragoon and its whole package as well. God, this is another card that just keeps avoiding the ban list because it hasn't been used as much. Yeah, so Dragoon is just a very good card. You can't target it. It has protection. You cannot be destroyed by card effects and stuff like that. Yes, there are ways to get around it, and that's why it hasn't been that hasn't seen that much play as people were expecting it to be. But it's since every time it doesn't get hit in a fucking ban list, the more times people start seeing it and like, oh, okay, this hasn't been banned yet, let's use it. Yep, it's been played with things like Verte Anaconda to bring it out easier, because they'll just do their whole combo, go into Verte Anaconda, end thing at the end of their combo, and get Dragoon out as their last combo piece. It's just absolutely ridiculous. A lot of rogue decks have been using Dragoon as well. And then Red Eyes Fusion, of course, is just the fusion that brings out the Dragoon. A lot of people have been playing 3 Red Eyes Fusion with like Red Eyes Insight and stuff like that, just so they can see Red Eyes Fusion and get Dragoon out without a doubt. So yeah, that is another meta card. Next thing up is Forbidden Droplet. Yep, this is still a card that can still be good in this format. So yeah, basically now with the end boards, not being VFD or not being Ultimate Negation Drytrons or anything like that, Forbidden Droplet can be just a shit ton of boards. Dragon Link's best board can be outed by Forbidden Droplet alone. So yeah, this card is very good. It's like 120. Now, it was spiking in the last format, and I would not be surprised if this spikes again, because it's just how good this card is. Now, if you want a cheaper alternative, Dark Ruler No More is a very good cheaper alternative. The only downside to Dark Ruler No More is that you can't kill your opponent the same turn you activate it because you can't deal damage the turn. But that doesn't mean anything. You can just set up like an negation board that your opponent just can't stop because they already used all their resources of getting their own field onto the field. But yeah, Forbidden Droplet, a very, very good card. Yeah, this is going to really define the format because there's going to be a lot of boards now that Droplet can defeat. Remember, in the last format, VFD, Droplet couldn't stop VFD in a way because, again, they would need to send a trap, and if they didn't send a trap, Chuche would just pop VFD. So it's just a very, very, it's a very good card. It's too expensive to pick up, but if you're going to go on Dueling Book and use it without a doubt. Use it in Dueling Book because it's a very, very, very good card. But let's get on to the next card. Next thing up is actually an engine and not a meta card, and that is Dogmatica, the engine. Oh boy, yeah, again, them not being hit. You remember some people, not all people, because like me, I didn't want this to happen, but some people were saying the Deer Servant should go down to 2. But they didn't get hit whatsoever. Yeah, it's still a very good package if your deck doesn't play an extra deck or doesn't need its extra deck so much. You can probably just throw your Dogmatica engine in there and be perfectly fine. Nadir Servant just being able to send elders and then not only do you get to search, you can also get the pop because of Elder Entity's effect. It's actually very, very ridiculous. Ecclesia just being able to add any Dogmatica as well and can just special summon herself as long as they're an extra deck monster on the field. Florides just being able to quick effect negate anytime it wants to is a very, very good engine. We have seen it's been played in the Outlage engine. It's been played in the Invoked engine. It's just because this is a very splashable engine that can be splashed with a lot of decks that doesn't really need all 15 spots in their extra deck. So yeah, if you haven't picked up this engine is very expensive, I gotta say. But if you haven't picked it up, it might be worth picking up. So yeah, that is it for the meta cards and engines. Now, let's officially get to the top 5. Coming in at number 5 is Zodiac, the pure version of Zodiac. Yes, holy shit, this thing is ridiculous. Now, in the last format, it was more paired with Outlage. You didn't really see that many pure Zodiac decks running around. But I think in this format, it will. You can kind of see in the pie chart that Zodiac was one of the most represented decks. I think it was the 3rd most represented deck in the entire tournament, and it's not a surprise why. Remember, hand traps are now going to be huge in this format because infinite impermanence can finally come back because VFD is now gone, and basically all the control decks are now is just Subterrors and Outlage, and that's it. You don't really need to worry about any other control deck because everyone's now moving into the combo decks that we'll later get into the video. But yeah, it's a very good deck. All you need to play is like 10 names and then like a shit ton of like 5 spells, 6 spells, and then play the rest just pure hand traps. That's basically how this deck is. You draw like 4 hand traps and you draw a name. You use all your 4 hand traps in your opponent's turn, and then you normal summon Zodiac and go into Zeus or something like that. Absolutely, absolutely ridiculous deck, I gotta say. The fact that this deck is not refused to die is kind of really, really stupid. But yeah, I have that coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Bird Up. Yeah, this is actually a surprising thing if you look at the pie chart. But yeah, I have Bird Up at number 4. It was really surprising to me that Bird Up didn't see that much play in the LCS because I think it's a very good deck. It was making a big splash in the last format, in the tail end of the last format. And now it's like, it should be one of the best decks in the format, I would think. But again, the LCS didn't really, not that many people were maining Bird Up. But I still think this is a very brilliant deck. It can, you know, the Tri-Brigade stuff are just absolutely ridiculous, especially with Tri-Brigade Kit now in the format. Same thing with the Lyralist. It's been one of those underrated archetypes that now, since they have the Tri-Brigade, just shot up out of nowhere. And now they are another deck that can assemble Zeus. They can get the Wind Bird statue onto the field at their end phase after they do all their combos. They can set up Appaloosa, make sure they get into a Link Karibo to make sure they protect that the Barry statue of Winds on the field to make sure, because they're the only Wind archetype in the entire format. So they can be very, very good. So mirror matches must really suck because your end board with the barrier statue would do really nothing against another mirror match. But this is a very, very good deck. I'm surprised it didn't didn't see play. I do have it at number 4. I think it will eventually start getting up. Maybe people were just testing this weekend, but I still think this is one of the top decks in the format, so that is just my opinion. But now let's get into number 3. Coming in at number 3 is Dinosaurs. Now, you can actually switch 2 and 3 with each other. You'll see why when I get into number 2. But I have Dinos at number 3. Now, Dinos has been one of those things like they've been avoiding the ban list. You remember, a lot of people in December's list wanted Mist Limited or something like that to happen, and that didn't happen, and then they really weren't that much of a competitor in the last format because thanks to Drytrons and Virtual World and stuff like that. But now Dinos can make a comeback because, again, none of their combo pieces have been hit. Miscellaneous Source is an absolutely ridiculous card. So I'm not surprised this is actually number 3 and potentially could be number 2. They just miss being, they can set up into UTC and get Dolka onto the field and stuff like that to make sure it's just a control kind of deck, but that can somewhat combo off as well. This is a very, very good deck. Now, this deck actually becomes better later in the format once Lightning Overdrive, I think, is when the Scrap Raptor comes out. Once they get Scrap Raptor, they can actually become a combo deck and set up Appaloosa, Boral Sword, Ultimate Conductor, and maybe even a Dolka, or if just any rank 4 you want. So yeah, that's what I have at number 3. Coming in at number 2, I have Eldritch. Yep, I have Eldritch. Like I said, you can switch 2 and 3 together if you want, but I do have Eldritch at number 2. This is a deck that somehow avoided the ban list with Scarlet Sanguine. People were begging for it to be at 1, and they didn't hit it whatsoever. So Eldritch, of course, would be one of the best decks in the format. Now, a lot of people would speculate that this would be number 1. I don't think so. But at number 2, it's actually still pretty good. Again, it's one of those decks that were able to compete in the last format, thanks to True King of All Calamity being in the top meta. But now, since it's gone, it actually gets hit a peg, because now they have to deal with a lot of combo decks. Now, I can see a lot of people now throwing in hand traps, playing the zoo variants and stuff like that, as still a good way to play this deck. I still think is one of the best. Now, of course, I'm biased. I think Zombie Eldritch is one of the best variants of it, but a lot of people prefer the Zoo Eldritch variant better. It controls a lot of hand traps, and of course, most of the hand traps are most of the actual traps are very, very good. So setting 4 pass is not the worst thing in the world. Lore just being able just to keep recurring itself. Once you get into a grind match, Eldritch is going to win out because it can keep grinding your opponent out of resources. It's one of the best decks in the entire format, but it ain't the top deck in the world. So let's cover number 1. Coming in at number 1 is Dragon Link. Now, if you watch my last top 5 meta decks, I had this at number 5, and it's actually now at number 1. Because they didn't hit shit in this deck. Remember, a lot of people were begging for Guard Dragon LP to be banned, even though Dragon Link wasn't that much of a competitor. They knew once the top decks got hit, Dragon Link would become a very, very good deck, and they were absolutely right. Dragon Link, of course, saw the most representation of the whole LCS, and actually won the LCS. A Dragon Link player actually did win the LCS 11 with boy howdy, this is a fucking deck. Now they can just keep combo off, they can play through multiple negations, and their end board is basically I think 3 material Appaloosa with Heretic's Seal onto the board and a Boral Sword Savage Dragon. Again, that is a very, very hard board to play through nowadays. Now, again, it does lose to things maybe like Nibiru and Forbidden Droplet, of course, but it's still a very, very, very good deck without a doubt. The best deck in the entire format, and it's not a surprise. LP is being one of the most problematic cards in the entire deck. Now they have a Synchro 9 that can negate any card on the field, because basically once you activate a card, let's say you activate a spell card, they can quick effect I forget what the card's name, but it's quick effect negate target one card on the field and negate its effects for the turn. So once you activate a spell card or anything they don't want to have happen, they can basically just go quick effect, negate it. So even though it's not negating like in the more typical way with like a hand trap or something, it's a very, very good card. Yeah, this is just absolutely ridiculous, and once they have their negation board done, once they get passed back to turn, they'll just set up Boral Sword and a Chaos Ruler and basically push for game once after that. So that's why it's the best deck in the entire format. But wait, there's one more entry. Coming in at number 0, it's the motherfucking Tunes, because Tunes are the motherfucking best deck. Fuck you, Triff, and your bullshit pendulums. You have Electromite still on the ban list. You must be happy, don't you? Tunes are the best motherfucking deck. Without a doubt, best field spell in the entire game. Blackluster Soldier just being an absolute powerhouse. This is a tier 0 deck in the making. I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more. I do upload every single day except for Sunday. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.